Everyone. So in this video series, we are going to discuss all the network management protocols, primarily SNMP and NetFlow. Before we dive into that, let me familiarize you with my testbed. So this is going to be our network management testbed, and you can see there are a lot of third-party and Cisco NMS tools are there. To name a few, we'll be using PRTG as our SNMP monitor. We will be using StealthWatch, Cisco StealthWatch, which is a security portfolio for NetFlow analysis. We'll be using UDP Director, Flow Collector, and SMC for NetFlow data aggregation and reporting and visualization. Additionally, we'll be using live action for our capacity planning. So live action will also consume NetFlow data, which will be coming from router and switches. They all come to UDP Director, and UDP Director in turn is going to send those data aggregated to StealthWatch Flow Collector, and UDP Director will send it additionally to live action. So UDP Director is going to aggregate NetFlow data coming from router and switches and send it to the respective flow collectors, live action and flow collector. We'll see how they help in future videos. For this video, the primary thing is SNMP, and let's dive a little bit into SNMP theory, and then we see how to configure SNMP on router and switches, and most importantly how you can run Net-snmp tool from your workstation, maybe Windows, Linux or Mac based workstation, and without any SNMP monitoring software you can see all the data, retrieve all the data, and visualize all the data. So little bit of SNMP theory. I'm planning to attach this Word document with my video, so you can go through it in your time. SNMP is a very old protocol. It started as early as 1980s, and since then it has evolved quite a bit. We'll discuss this in later slides. But what is SNMP? SNMP is Simple Network Management Protocol, which consists of your management stations, your SNMP agent and SNMP server. SNMP agent primarily resides into networking equipment itself, like routers, switches, bridge, and even computers or printers. And SNMP server can be any of the NMS servers, or as simple as Windows workstation or Linux workstation. So how SNMP works? SNMP works based on like polling. SNMP server keep polling the SNMP agents on some certain interval and request the SNMP data via using the PDU, SNMP get next. And if you see here, we have SNMP set as well. So SNMP set is to configure the devices. SNMP is not really a configuration management protocol, but still if you want, you can configure your devices using SNMP set PDU. What SNMP consists of? SNMP consists of your management information base. And what is a management information base? Management information base is a collection of objects. So within SNMP, everything is an object which has got an identifier, so that you can identify what particular object you are talking about. And when you group them, all those objects in a categorized manner, they form a tree called MIB, SNMP MIB, and you basically poll the SNMP MIBs. So a little bit of history on SNMP. SNMP since its inception evolved a bit from SNMP V1, V2C, and V3. All these are standard. You can see we are not saying SNMP V2 because SNMP V2 never made it to IETF standard. The standard protocol is SNMP V2C, and today most of the devices they run SNMP V2C. V2C has one primary enhancement over V1 in terms of traps. So initially all the traps, since SNMP is a UDP based protocol, it uses UDP 161, U162 as a protocol port. But SNMP v2, what it brings, uh, the new type of trap, which is called inform. So SNMP inform messages are kind of trap which expect a acknowledgement. So when I send this inform as a trap, I expect acknowledgement from server. So it brings in reliability over the UDP. So now, even if it is a UDP protocol, since we are tying it up with acknowledgement, we are bringing some reliability. V3 is the primary enhancement, is authentication and privacy. So V3 initially in SNMP V2, it is only tied to your community string. There is no authentication or encryption. V3 bring in those features, because nowadays a lot of branches and all are setting or connecting using internet, and if you have to send those data, security is the primary concern, right? So you want your privacy and encryption. So SNMP router config, I'm not dwelling into the SNMP v3 config here. Config wise, it's very easy. So you basically just configure SNMP community, and there are two type of community: read write community and read only community. I'm not, by default communities are private is your read write community for most of the router, server and SNMP enabled devices, and public is read only community. But using the same or default public and private community is not a good practice. So I came up with something innovative called Jerry can write, which is my read write community, and Tom can read, which is read only community. So you can see that I'm a kind of like childlike fan of Tom and Jerry. Once you configure these two community, any NMS server which is also configured with this community, they can and if they are in same network, they can read SNMP. They can poll these devices. For traps, especially for traps, you need to enable some traps. So by default it is disabled. So you say SNMP server enable traps, and then say and define where these traps need to go. And the next thing what we'll do, we'll see a little bit about where you can explore the MIBs and OID. I'll take you to that page. Welcome to SNMP part 2. In this video, we'll continue with our discussion, and I'm going to show you how you can dig deep into SNMP MIB and OIDs. So this is the Cisco web page I pulled. To browse inside this, you probably need some kind of login, maybe a partner login or something. So this is the MIB locator. It has all the Cisco MIBs available here. So if you want to browse the MIB, click on MIB locator, and it will land you a page where you can search all the MIBs. So you can search the MIBs based on Cisco software releases, Cisco platform, or the features. And once you download these MIBs, you can open it as a text file, actually. Yeah, and then you can see what is inside the MIB. Other than that, what you can do, you can actually browse the OIDs. So as I mentioned, the MIB is collection of objects, and those objects are identified, and they are called object identifier. So if you have OID, you can poll using OID, or you can translate that as a description name. So this is one of the MIB I just pulled randomly, and once you translate, it's gonna translate what is the object called, call history, and it shows you the complete tree. The next is in our agenda is Net-snmp. Net-snmp is very popular tool, and it is available by default on Mac devices, and if you're using Windows or Linux, you can install it very easily. So Net-snmp, you can go to net-snmp.org and download the required file, but I'm using Mac, so no installation required. But before I start reading the SNMP using Net-snmp tool, let's see what Net-snmp can do. And this is the text file for MIB. It's a simple text file. It has the description and the contact information, and pretty much self-explanatory what this MIB is supposed to do. So let's continue our discussion, and the chapter 2 is Net-snmp. Net-snmp is there are different operation types for SNMP. You can say SNMP get, SNMP get next, SNMP walk, and SNMP table, which is my favorite. One of the most important of these is SNMP walk. SNMP walk is name given to SNMP application that run multiple get next. So you remember in our first video I mentioned that there are some PDU by default in SNMP, SNMP get, SNMP get next, SNMP set. These are the same things which so you don't need a NMS. You can read as SNMP information based sitting on your workstation if you have Net-snmp tool. So SNMP walk is very useful command, because for SNMP get you need to specify the leaf object, but for SNMP walk you can issue this command at the root node, and it reads all the SNMP objects which are part of that tree. So well, you can see that this is a if table, and if table has these branches and leaves. So if you issue a SNMP walk command at root level, which is if table, is going to give you information related to all the branch and leaf. A little bit more theory. SNMP walk has range of different parameters, so you can specify host name, community, all those, and these are the codes command which you can use. So you can use SNMP get if you want a particular object ID, like if you want a uptime of a system, you can use sys uptime as a particular uptime object ID, and it will tell you how much time the router is up. But if you want to read a bulk of information, SNMP walk is the command to go. So in this you can see SNMP walk. C is that's community. I'm specifying the version, my router ID, and then the object I want to read. And the beauty of this is you can issue from root. Sometimes you'll see SNMP bulk walk. The bulk walk is nothing but same as SNMP walk, but only thing is when you issue this command, a less number of SNMP packets are exchanged. So let's go ahead and read this SNMP data using SNMP walk from workstation.